Hey guys, OnTheGamer here, back in another video. And for today's video, I thought I would do something a little bit different, something that isn't a collection video or games I recently bought online or anything like that. Today, I want to specifically focus on the most valuable games that I own in my game collection. Basically the ones that are worth the most amount of money. I don't know, I just wanted to make a video just showing off like the most expensive games I own pretty much. This isn't like to brag or anything, but I just wanted to like show you guys because a lot of these games are pretty rare. There's nothing that's worth like an insane amount or anything. I think the most expensive game here is only about 100 quid, so which I know does sound like a lot, but it's not like crazy expensive or anything. So I just figured I'd go through these games. Let's start things off here with a game for the original PlayStation that is definitely one of the most rarest games I own, and that's Skeleton Warriors. As you can see, it's not in the best of condition, at least case-wise. This was the case that I originally came with. So Skeleton Warriors, this game is worth around about, loose disc-wise, about £21. But if you want to get a complete in-box copy, it's worth around at least a good £50–60. This is eBay prices, just going off of memory, so I could be completely wrong, but yeah, but I have a disc-only copy. I got an insane fucking deal on this, honestly. I managed to win this in an auction for only £8.50. Just an insane bargain for this game, considering how much it usually goes for. But yeah, Skeleton Warriors is a pretty good game. This was actually the very first game developed by Neversoft, the guys behind Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. This was the first game they ever made. It was originally developed for the Sega Saturn, and they ported it later on to the PS1. Well, actually, originally it was developed for the Mega Drive, actually. But then they obviously, like, switched it to the Saturn when that was about to come out. So the very first game Neversoft ever made, and probably their rarest as well, because it wasn't a particularly big hit, unlike Tony Hawk or anything. It's a game based on, like, a cartoon series from the 90s, and it also had, like, its own line of, like, action figures and stuff. I'm not entirely sure how well that did, but yeah, the game, I don't think, but did particularly well. You don't really see like that many copies for sale. The Sega Saturn version, actually, I find, is a lot more common to find than the PlayStation version, especially complete in box, but even that one's still pretty pricey. And this was a game that I remember I needed for my collection because I was going for a complete Neversoft set, like about 2 years ago now. I wanted to get like every game they ever made. And yeah, and again, like I only pay like £8.50 for this, which is just absolutely insane, So it does suck that it's a disc-only copy, but in this case, like, the game was just so rare and expensive that I was just happy to take, any copy for £8.50, So regardless of condition and stuff, I was just happy to get the game for that cheap, so... And it does work perfectly fine, thankfully. I think there's a few scratches on the back, but it's not too bad. It does play perfectly fine, but, yeah, just one of the best deals I've ever gotten on eBay is for this game, hands down. Yeah, just absolute nuts I got that for that cheap, but it is worth usually like a considerable amount complete in box, so yeah, I'm just glad to have that. Moving on, we have, I think, my second most expensive PS1 game. I'm going to save the most expensive one for last because that's actually the most expensive game I own, period. Yeah, this one's worth a considerable amount as well, just like Skeleton Warriors. Yeah, I actually did an entire video on this game like a long time ago on the channel. I did like a sort of kind of review of it, and that's Rising Zan, the Samurai Gunman. So yeah, so this is a pretty cool game, made by the same guys who did Cool Borders, actually. Well, at least the initial two on the PS1, and they also did the one for the Dreamcast, Cool Borders Burn, as well as Code Alien for PS2, which I also have, the Japanese only one. Yeah, but this game is yeah, pretty unique. It's kind of like sort of like Devil May Cry in a way. You play as this like cowboy dude who's also like a samurai as well, so you can like slash people and like shoot them with your revolver and stuff. And yeah, it's a pretty interesting game. Very over the top. Doesn't take itself too seriously at all. And yeah, and usually on average, a complete in-box copy of this game would be about, again, just going off memory, I think upwards of like £70 or something. And how I got this initially was actually pretty interesting. So I initially bought just the disc for the game. So I initially bought the disc for about £18 off eBay, and then shortly after I got that, like literally only like a few days after, another seller on eBay was selling the case and manual separately. And, you know, the timing of that would like couldn't have been more perfect. You know, I just bought a disc only copy for about 18 quid, thinking that that would be the cheapest I'd get the game. And then shortly after, another guy just so happens to be selling the case and manual on its own. It's like, you know, it's like the planets align. It was meant to be, you know. So of course I bought that. I forgot exactly how much that was. I want to say like maybe around like £15 or so for the case and manual on its own. Yeah, so in total for all of it together, I paid around about, oh my god, my maths is so bad, but I think around 30-ish pounds for this in total. So yeah, so really happy about that because this game is, you know, just worth a lot more. I think this is the most amount of money I've ever spent on an original PlayStation game. I usually never spend like too much at all on games. I usually try to get games as cheap as possible, especially for retro games. But yeah, this was one of the few exceptions where I pretty much had to spend like a decent amount, you know, because this is a game that's just, you know, really uncommon and yeah, it's just worth a lot nowadays. And then the next game is my most expensive Game Boy game. It's a Game Boy Advance game, actually. Usually a lot of the Game Boy stuff I have is pretty cheap for the most part, especially because I mainly collect loose cart when it comes to Game Boy. I do have some complete box Game Boy games, but not too many. I usually just stick to the loose carts. But this one, even loose, is still worth a decent amount. And that's Smash and Drive for the GBA. So this game I mainly wanted because of just how like graphically impressive it was for the system. I remember like, I think it was a probably like a mini-me video or something. It was a video I saw about the most graphically impressive GBA games, and this was in there. And when I saw this, I was just like blown away because this is one of those like fully 3D Game Boy Advance games, like fully 3D polygons. It's a racing game that's kind of sort of like Crazy Taxi. I mean, not really, because you're not like picking up passengers or anything. It's strictly just racing, but it kind of has like a Crazy Taxi sort of vibe to it. And yeah, and the whole thing's just like completely in 3D, you know, kind of looks like an early PlayStation game in a way. And yeah, I just thought it was insanely impressive for a GBA game. So I decided to grab a copy. I remember I bought this one off Amazon quite a few years ago now, like in 2018, for about £10, I think. And nowadays this game's worth around 30 or so. I think loose cart is worth around 30, and then complete in box would be a little bit more. But yeah, but I know this game's worth a decent amount now. So I'm glad I got this for only like a tenner or so when I did all those years ago. But yeah, so that's definitely the most expensive Game Boy game I have. And then for PS2, I've got two games here for PS2. So this one I showed off in a Games I Recently Bought Online video like over a year ago at this point. And this game usually on any other platform is actually really cheap, but on the PS2, it's worth a decent amount. That's FIFA 14 Legacy Edition. Yeah, so this game's worth a decent amount on the PS2 because this was one of the last games ever made for the PS2. It was, I believe, the second to last game ever made for the system. And yeah, and it like didn't really sell well on the PS2 because obviously like no one was buying PS2 games, you know, at that point. And yeah, and it just became like this really rare version of FIFA. Yeah, on average, complete in box, I think this is worth around 40-50 quid. Again, that's just like based off memory. This copy I got for around £21. Yeah, so I got it for a pretty decent price, and it is complete as well, which I'm really happy about. And yeah, so this was like my most valuable game on the PS2 until I brought this next game, which if you saw my last episode of Games I Recently Brought Online, you'd already know about this one. This one I got very recently, PES 2014 for the PS2. So same thing with FIFA 14 on any other platform, this game would be worth nothing because obviously it's a 10-year-old football game. You know, they're only worth like 50p or £1, you know. But on the PS2, it's worth a considerable amount because, again, it was one of the last games ever made. And in fact, this was the last ever PS2 game that they released. The very, very last one. So because of that, it's worth even more than FIFA 14. You know, like complete in box, this is like £50 to £100. Like roughly, like the price fluctuates. And I've even seen like loose disc copies of this go as high as like 60 quid. So yeah, so it's worth a decent amount, you know, for over 10-year-old football game. But yeah, but it's only expensive because it was the last game ever made for PS2, you know. That's basically the only reason why it's worth as much as it is. And this copy is actually a foreign one. It's actually the German release, as you can see. The back is all in German. There was like a UK one, but that one's like really hard to find. But yeah, but I'm just glad to have any version of this game, you know, because this was a game I wanted for a really long time. The last ever PS2 game. And yeah, and it's in insanely good condition, you know, complete and everything. So yeah, just incredibly happy to have this. And as well, I didn't have to pay a whole lot for it, you know. I managed to get this for a really good deal, you know. I only paid £16 for it, which was just insane, you know. £16, buy it now. Of course, I snagged that up just like instantly when I saw it in my eBay feed. So yeah, just absolutely insane, you know. Definitely, without a doubt, the most valuable PS2 game I have. But luckily, I didn't have to pay too much for it. It's absolutely insane that I even have that. And it's just insane as well that I literally own, you know, the last 2 PS2 games ever made. You know, just absolutely insane that I have these. But yeah, so those are definitely the most valuable PS2 games I own. The next one here is for the GameCube. This is definitely the most valuable GameCube game I own. And that's The Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition. Yeah, so this was a pretty interesting release, actually. It was the only compilation Nintendo ever did for The Legend of Zelda. This one has the 2 NES games on it, as well as the 2 N64 games. So you've got Zelda 1, Zelda 2, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. And there's also a playable demo for Wind Waker as well. And on average, this game, I think, complete in box is around 30-40 quid, something like that. Again, this is just like based off memory. I could be like totally wrong, to be honest. I'm just basing this off of what I remember off eBay from a while ago. But yeah, but I know it's worth a decent amount. I paid, I think it was about £27 for this. So I still paid a pretty decent amount. I didn't get as good of a deal as I did, say, with PES 2014 or anything. But, you know, I still got it for a bit cheaper than what it usually goes for. But yeah, it was definitely the most amount of money I ever spent on a GameCube game. The GameCube's a system that I just don't really collect for a whole lot, mainly because like the first party games especially are just so damn expensive for it. I really want to get a copy of like Super Smash Bros. And Luigi's Mansion and stuff and some of the other first party games, but they're just so expensive. And this was like another one that was really expensive as well. So that's why I don't really collect a whole lot for the GameCube, but I really want to because I really do enjoy the system. But yeah, that one's complete as well. And strangely enough, when I got this, it actually came with 2 manuals inside. Like, yeah, there was actually 2 manuals for some reason inside of this. I still have the other manual. I'm thinking of, like, selling it, potentially. But, yeah, so really happy to have this. And there's also in the original purple case as well that's supposed to be in. I've seen quite a few copies on eBay that come in regular black GameCube cases. But no, this is supposed to come in the purple case, which I think this and Super Mario Sunshine are the only GameCube games that came in purple cases, at least in PAL territories. You know, in the US, like all the GameCube games came in black cases. But yeah, just really cool to have that. And next up for the Xbox 360, yeah, pretty sure this is the most valuable 360 game I own. And it was a game that I actually didn't even realize was worth as much as it was until I saw a Pete Dorr video he did, talking about like 360 game prices and stuff, and talking about like some games that like really shot up in value in recent years. And he mentioned this one, and I remember like quickly looking on eBay like shortly after watching the video and being amazed that this game was worth as much as it is now. And yeah, and it's Need for Speed Most Wanted for the 360, the 2005 version. So yeah, so this is like a £50 game now, which is insane. Because I remember getting this copy years ago at CEX for about, I think it was like 18 quid. It wasn't cheap when I got it. Yeah, but this is a £50 game now. I'm not entirely sure why it's worth as much as it is. I think on the other systems that this game came out on, it's still fairly cheap. But the 360 version, for whatever reason, is worth a decent amount. But this was a game I already had in my collection for a really long time, long before it even became a super expensive game. But this one's complete as well. But yeah, so I'm glad I bought this at the time when I did, you know. But like I said, it wasn't even particularly cheap even at the time when I got it. I do have all the other Need for Speeds for the 360 as well. I actually have a complete collection of every Need for Speed for the system. And as far as I'm aware, I don't think any of the others are worth nowhere near as much as this. I could be wrong, but I don't think the other Need for Speeds are worth anywhere near as much as this. Yeah, but it's just crazy how much this has shot up in price over the years. Alright, next up we have a PS4 game. Now this is a game that's actually been pretty pricey for quite a few years now. And the main reason for it is because it was delisted a long time ago, and the only way you could play it now is to get a physical copy. and there's of course the Amazing Spider-Man 2 for PS4. Pretty much a lot of the old Spider-Man games are really like shot up in value. I mean, like pretty much all the ones for the 360 are just gone way out of control when it comes to price. I think Web of Shadows is like an £80 game now or something, or like 90 quid, something like that. Just absolutely insane. And yeah, and this is one that's been pretty pricey for a while. I think around the I mean, you can get it for potentially as low as like 20 quid. Like, it's not like a super expensive game, but you know, it has held its value throughout the years, and it's just a really uncommon game, you know, at least on the PS4, and it's a lot more common on like the other systems. But yeah, and luckily I got this gifted as a birthday present, so I didn't have to pay like any money for it or anything, which I'm really glad about. But yeah, it's not fully complete because it doesn't have like the advertisement things inside, advertising like the movie. But yeah, but it is in pretty good shape, which I'm happy about. And yeah, and it's the only Spider-Man game I own that's actually worth a decent amount. I mean, like, I don't know how much these Spider-Man games on PS2 are nowadays. I don't know if they're like really expensive or anything. But I know the ones for the 360 are. But I'm not entirely sure about like, the PS2 ones or anything. But yeah, but this one I know is worth a decent amount. So yeah, that's my most valuable PS4 game. All right, and then next up we have my most valuable game for the Switch. This is one that we all know about, you know, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. This game had a very limited print run. You only really get it for like 6 months or so, shortly after it came out. And then they just completely like just stopped producing copies. And they even removed it from the eShop as well, which was a really like dick move, you know? So like literally, if you didn't already buy it, like no one could play it really. Especially nowadays, because this is really shot up in price because of that. Like over like £100, honestly. I've seen copies of Amazon for like 120, even used copies. And it's just insane. And again, just like with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, I luckily got this as a birthday present, so I didn't have to pay any money for it, which I'm really thankful for. So yeah, and there it is. Pretty much the rest of my Switch library is like, you know, not worth anything for the most part, but this one is the only one that's worth a considerable amount. Really happy to have this. I mean, the collection itself, you know, is obviously like, it's not as good as it should have been, really. I mean, like, they didn't really do a whole lot to these games. I mean, like, Sunshine plays in widescreen, and Galaxy, you know, is in HD. I'd say this is probably, like, the most valuable first-party Nintendo Switch game. At least I think. If there's another one that's worth more than this, let me know in the comments, but I think, at least in terms of Mario games, this is definitely one that's worth the most amount of money, for sure. Alright, and then the last game here that I'm going to show you guys is, I'm pretty sure, the most expensive game I have in my whole collection, period. Another PS1 game, and it's a game that I actually got for free. That's the insane thing, I actually got this game for free. So yeah, so I don't know if you guys remember, but a year ago now, I did a whole video showing off, like, a huge lot of PS1 games I got for free. I got like a whole bag of like 20-30 PS1 games for free from my nan. I'm not entirely sure where she got them from, if they came from like someone she knew or whatever. But yeah, but basically she gave me just like these PS1 games for free. And this was in there. And when I found out like the value of this game, like shortly after I got it, I was just blown away. Absolutely just fucking blown away that, you know, I got this for free. And that's Contra Legacy of War for the PS1. So complete in box, this game is worth like £100, like easily. I think CEX, at least for a time, was selling it for about 63. I'm not entirely sure about now, but I know on eBay this game is always complete in box over 100. You know, it's very rare you find this game for under that, at least from what I found. Especially if you have a copy that comes with the 3D glasses. My one actually doesn't. It is complete. It does come with the manual, but not the 3D glasses, which is a shame, but, you know, still, I mean, £100 game that I got for free in a bag of other PS1 games aren't really worth anything. You know, I mean, I'll take it. I mean, the game itself isn't particularly great, to be honest. I mean, like, you know, it's the first 3D Contra game. Not great, to be honest, but, you know, just the fact that it's worth as much as it is just... You know, again, I had no idea. I had no idea until after I got it and I looked up the value. And I found out that it was a £100 game. It's just absolutely insane. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the most valuable game in my whole game collection. So yeah, just absolutely insane that I got that for free. Right, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I have some other games in my collection that are worth a decentish amount. Like, for example, Zero Tolerance collection up here for the PS4. This one I didn't bother including because, well, it's a strictly limited game. It's obviously one of those games that is meant to be like scarce. They only print like a certain amount of copies. In this case, only 1,200 copies exist. So naturally, like once it goes out of print, it becomes like really hard to find and really expensive. So yeah, that's why I didn't include this, because it's a limited release kind of thing. It's supposed to be like limited. So yeah. But for the most part, the rest of my game collection isn't really worth like too much. But yeah, I mean, I could probably find some games that are worth like maybe 30, 40, 50 quid, or maybe not even that high, only maybe like 20, 30, Like I said, there's nothing in my collection that's really worth that much other than like Contra and Super Mario 3 All-Stars and stuff. For the most part, like everything's like under 100. But yeah, those were some of the most valuable games in my game collection. Hope you guys enjoyed. Just felt like doing a different type of video for once. Again, this isn't to brag that I own these expensive games, but I just wanted to show them off, because I thought you guys would find it interesting. And yeah, let me know down in the comments if you guys own any like rare or really expensive games, or games that you didn't even realize were worth as much as they are that you own. And yeah, so with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and peace. I shall see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care now.